With over a decade of competition in Trackmania Nations Forever, the top players have discovered and used many groundbreaking strategies to improve the world records on the game's 65 tracks. In 2011, when the bug slide technique was discovered, it allowed players to do a really sharp slide on grass and dirt turns, and it caused havoc as many world records were massively improved overnight. In 2013, the same thing happened when the secret behind the Uber bug was finally understood. The bug literally makes the Trackmania car launch up into the sky like a rocket, and players were able to use it to skip huge sections of many tracks, leading to many world records being completely destroyed. These two discoveries are some of the biggest events in Trackmania's 13-year history, but they both pale in comparison to what players recently found. A few weeks ago, a new Trackmania mechanic was discovered that's even more potent than bug slides or Uber bugs, and it could, in theory, break just about any track. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the era of the nose boost. What makes this discovery so much more groundbreaking than other mechanics is that it's a new way of generating speed in Trackmania. The nose boost can let you build up an incredible amount of speed in a short amount of time. But how exactly does it work? And why did it take 13 years to be discovered? In order to answer that question, we need to take a look at yet another Trackmania bug, the nose bug. The nose bug is yet another Trackmania bug, where if you press the drift keys while the car is perfectly on its nose, you will get launched 90 degrees sideways while preserving your speed. It's a great situational technique for very sharp corners, where it's faster to nose bug than to slow down and drive it normally. But mostly, nose bugs are used in khaki tracks. Khaki tracks are best described as absurdly difficult Trackmania maps, created by community members to balance right on the line between fun and frustration. Many khaki tracks use nose bugs as they add an element of randomness, where players can either get the perfect nose bug into the finish, or fail and just barely miss it. One such track is Khaki 81 by Tormod, where the only way to finish is to do a series of bounces into a perfect nose bug in a tight gap. Recently, some community members were trying to create a theoretically perfect tool-assisted speedrun on this track, where using things like save states, manually editing the inputs frame by frame, and even machine brute forcing is all fair game, to try to create the fastest speedrun possible in theory. In September of 2021, the tool-assisted speedrunner Lambda was trying to brute force the bounce landing to get more speed on the track. And in a moment of pure coincidence, after a few thousand iterations, the brute forcing algorithm found this. Now, that might not look like much, but this was the first spark to a great fire that would soon burn. What had happened is that the brute force found a way to gain more speed while driving in a straight line, something which we traditionally haven't thought is possible in Trackmania. The players Lambda and Nogul experimented further, and eventually they were able to gain huge amounts of speed in a straight line. They coined the trick as the nose boost, and this is how it works. In order to do this trick, you first have to nose bug towards one direction, and then in the small time window before the car launches off the track, you can quickly do a nose bug towards the other side. Left, right, as many times as you can. They also discovered that you need to have at least 450 speed for this to work. If you were below that, then you wouldn't gain speed from each nose bug. This all happens extremely fast, within just half a second. But in that time, you could gain upwards of 500 speed, and that is incredible. The nose boost was just in its infancy, and most players didn't yet realize just how many tracks it could revolutionize, but they were about to find out. Trackmania tool-assisted speedrunners got to work, and started making runs where nose boosting could be viable. And the first successful run was on A15 speed by the tool-assisted speedrunner Andy, who showed that with perfect inputs, it was possible to optimize the ending with a 5 times nose boost combo, gaining nearly 0.6 of a second in just a short straight line to the finish. The community were blown away by this, but that was just the beginning. Over the next few days, we'd see more and more increasingly game-breaking tool-assisted speedruns. The track B07 race saw a tool-assisted run by Wirtual that chained together 12 nose bugs to gain 2 seconds in the final turn. And the track B12 race saw a tool-assisted run by Trinity that chained together 13 nose bugs to gain 2.5 seconds in the ending. But this was again just the tip of the iceberg. The next tool-assisted run to be released would truly show the insanity that the run on Kaki's Kaki 81 had sparked. Let's take a look at Al1 Obstacle. This track has 7 checkpoints. 2 of them are just after the start, but then you have long segments of wall rides and loops, which are somewhat slow to drive. I mean, the most optimal way to complete the map would be to just draw a straight line directly from checkpoint to checkpoint. So that's what the tool-assisted speedrunners did. After a lot of work by the players Jav, Wirtual and Ince, they were able to present this task run to the community. Al1 Obstacle completed in 23.10 seconds, saving 20.47 seconds against the world record. For Trackmania standards, where players compete for hundreds of a second, that is an absolutely outrageous time margin. They had quite simply used the grass area as a huge nose boost playground, and traversed directly from checkpoint to checkpoint and back to the grass. And although the inputs for such a run is far too precise for anything humans can do, it was mesmerizing to watch how the game looked like at peak performance. The most optimal strategy on pretty much any Trackmania track was now to reach 450 speed and then teleport across the map with a chain of nose boosts. Many tracks fell to new tool-assisted records, getting increasingly more ridiculous in their form. But the one big target for tool-assisted speedrunners to solve was Al1 Race, the first track in the game. Up until recently, the tool-assisted record was a 23.74, and the human record was a 23.81, just 0.07 of a second difference. But if the tool-assisted speedrunners could use the nose boost, they could surely bring it a lot lower. However, the one big problem is that on Al1 Race, you never really reach 450 speed naturally, and there's no clear great place to nosebug from, except for in the start, where you only have around 250 speed. But only 2 weeks after the nose boost was discovered, tool-assisted speedrunners came up with a great solution. On the big downhill drop, they would first use a Uber bug to generate a ton of speed backwards, then land in the uphill slope with over 450 speed, and then just, do something like that. It's absurd to think about the fact that a racing game isn't most optimally played with 4 wheels on the ground, but instead, peak Trackmania performance is when you stand on your nose, doing endless pirouettes and boosts to generate speed. But what kind of impact does nose boosts have on the leaderboards? Up until this point, I've only shown tool-assisted speedruns, and there's a great reason for that. Nose boosts are extremely difficult and precise to do, so is there a chance we may ever see them done by human players? Probably yes, but on a smaller scale than these incredible chains. Players have managed to successfully do 3 times nose boost combos in real attempts, saving a few tenths of a second in a straight line. And thinking back to tracks such as A15 Speed, it is situations like those where players may benefit the most from the trick. Perhaps it's too difficult to find proper use cases for it, and perhaps it will just go back to being used to create even more khaki tracks, instead of world record speedruns. But one thing is certain, the fact that this trick was out there for over 13 years, and that players only discovered it now, may mean that there are even more such tricks and mechanics that we haven't yet found, which could also further revolutionize the game. Trackmania is by no means a solved problem, and it will continue to change as we understand it better and better. In 2013, when the Uber bug was discovered, many found it to be just a crazy fun bug, and very few saw it as being used in real speedruns. And now, 8 years later, several of the world records on official tracks soar across the stadium using this exact bug. Knowing Trackmania players and their dedication, we may very likely see a nose boost world record in the years to come, and I expect it sooner rather than later. But for that, I guess we will just have to wait and see. Anyways guys, that's all for now. I hope you've had a fantastic day, and until next time, have a good one.